everything. I really do. That feeling of being surrounded by the sound of other beautiful voices, that camaraderie and motivation that you experience together while working towards a common goal. That magical sense where harmonies just mesh perfectly, especially for the first time, and you just sort of feel it in your whole body. And really just the experience of making music with friends and all the fun that comes with it. A lot of hard work and many hours of rehearsal go into preparing and perfecting a full concert worth of music, but there's so much spontaneity and silliness that happens in the rehearsal room, and I miss making all of those memories. There, to me, really just isn't much that can beat being in a room, making wonderful music with people you love to share with an audience. And I really look forward to the day where it's safe for us to be back together again.
Now, as performing artists or even visual artists, we spend a lot of time crafting, honing our skills, our talents. And as a result of that, there's a lot of kind of self-focus, self-centeredness, and selfishness that can come about from that. And really just being aware of our own selves and our own needs. But what I was so surprised about during the pandemic, as I've experienced it so far, is there's been an incredible outpouring of generosity from artists supporting other artists who are struggling, and also offering opportunities for people to kind of find relief, find a respite from the struggles, the daily struggles that we found during the pandemic, and just to give them some light and some hope and some joy. So my hope is that I can be a part of that force, that function, to bring some joy, to bring some light, and to bring some hope to people, to audiences around the world.
We are all experiencing being alone and periods of loneliness more than we ever have. And despite being isolated from others and lacking the physical connection that comes from occupying the same space and without all the Zoom video delays, I believe we're realizing the value of those interpersonal connections and beautifully finding ways to keep them alive as best we can with the tools and technology available. We are so lucky to have that technology at our fingertips right now. And as Michelle mentioned, there's been such an outpouring of sharing art and music to soothe the soul, ease the mind, and honestly create some distraction and respite from the constant stream of anxiety-inducing and sad news. Music has the ability to help us process those complex emotions. Throughout my time at home, I've had periods of productivity and honestly great periods of silence. I've explored new genres during this time, and I found songs from new and old artists that have helped me through anxious moments, as well as those that have inspired joy. I've loved seeing how the arts world is sharing their art from their homes in an honest and sometimes refreshingly imperfect form. I hope that will change how we experience music going forward in a wonderfully positive way.
If a choir is only about singing and performing, there will be no choir for a while. If choir is about teaching and growing and learning, connecting community, cultural exploration and transmission and innovation, we will find a way to have choir. How are music educators and students adapting in a time of pandemic? This is a question that's very close to my heart, as I am not only a performer, but I have been a music educator in the choral classroom and general music classroom for 15 plus years. And that quote by Kelly Walsh, a choral conductor in Canada, is one that I have been coming back to often, and it gives me a lot of hope. There's a lot of data out there for what we as music educators can and can't do, and we have a lot of administrators telling us what we can and can't do. Right now, teachers are having to find ways to teach at a distance while keeping it meaningful. So we have ways for our students to express themselves and coming up with ways for our students to be creative and actively learning that doesn't involve singing. Right now, the science is telling us that it's not safe to be singing near each other. So that makes it difficult for those of us who are choral conductors or who use the voice as the main instrument in our general music classrooms. For example, games that I would normally play with my littlest students, those that don't even involve singing, but they involve touching instruments or touching things that we might pass around in a circle game, we can't do those things. So I'm having to come up with ways to still keep the students involved and actively learning kinesthetically, visually, orally, but in ways that keep us all at a distance. Right now, my own youth choruses are on a phased reopening plan. So we're meeting together. We have our first rehearsals next week. And we will begin by meeting in small groups and working on starting repertoire, our repertoire for the season. We definitely are not able to learn as much repertoire as we normally would during a normal choral season. That's a challenge. But we're taking this opportunity to build our musicianship skills, build our ears, and maybe even do some fun things that we might not be able to do in the classroom. So for us music educators, it's all about digging deep and finding another way, being flexible. And it's going to be an interesting year because of that. A very different year from any I've ever had. So let me give you that quote one more time, because I think even though it's about a choir, I could change it to music education. So let me do that. If music education is only about singing and performing, or just performing, there will be no music education for a while. If music education is about teaching and learning, growing, connecting community, cultural exploration and transmission, and innovating, we will find a way to keep music education going.
Hi. As musicians, we are asked how we can continue to make music during this time when all of our arts venues, festivals, and concert series have been shut down. As a pianist, I'm lucky enough to continue to practice in my own living room. One day, my son said, we should open all the windows and you can play for the neighbors. And so began my very small series, window music. So I've done a couple of them over the summer and invited local neighbors and friends to come by if they wanted to bring a blanket or a chair, wear a mask, and keep a safe distance while listening to some familiar piano tunes. I think the prospect of continuing to share this universal language of music, whether it's through a window or through a screen, is vital during this time for our humanity and for our ability to get through this challenge together. So I'll leave you with just a phrase from a piece that indicates that there is a time and a place beyond where we are and beyond this difficulty somewhere.